And we are back. The back page of the Daily Nation. What Eric Odor, one of my guests this morning, alluded to. New MPs will be sworn in next week, says Aden Duale. And we are looking at a situation here. With a total of 164 MPs, Jubilee stands a better chance to go it alone in passing crucial legislation in the House. The party is also likely to get the lion's share of the 12 nomination slots, special seats, and they might also get the support of KANU, which won 10 seats. Of course, and the Economic Freedom Party with 5 seats, and Mandeleo Chap Chap with 4 seats. The opposition is expected to play as the watchdog role, but the numbers they have, 124 seats, including the 16 seats that are reserved for women representatives. What are we looking at, Gabriel?
Number one,
I should have started with Eric because he was prosecuting this. Eric, maybe we can get the finer details.
Yes, actually, I was looking at it that we now going to have a parliament that is very likely that is going to push an agenda, just the government agenda, and that is very dangerous because they will pass these laws with
a parliament which will not ask questions.
Exactly, and you remember last year, or even years before, even the issue of tyranny of numbers in parliament, where parliament actually, Jubilee then could pass any bill they want in parliament because also they had numbers. But this time around, actually now the numbers are even more than they had last time. So that's why I say the number one, we've got 3 key institutions here that actually must now be very active. Number one of them is the media. The media must now play that role of putting checks and balance on the government. Number 2, we have a judiciary also that must be independent and also ensure that anything that happens in that house, which is not constitutional, actually is able to be dealt with. Then number 3, we have the civil society, which must also now play a very, very active role to ensure that whatever is happening in parliament is in line with the law.
The civil society that is now under more scrutiny.
Exactly. So that means that we now must, these other bodies must now be very, very active to ensure that we have a house that is going to respond to the needs of the Kenyans, not to protect the interests of politicians. Because when it comes to the house, some of the bills that you'll see there, some of them will just be there to support the agenda of the politicians, not the agenda of the nation. So that again goes now the leadership from the president. The president himself must now also rise to the occasion to ensure that he calls on his people who are in parliament to put the interests of the country first than their interests as politicians.
Where do you put the separation, Sandra? Interest of the country, interest of the government of the day? Where is the separation?
The separation comes in, one, from the constitution, and secondly from norms and customs. And one thing I appreciate is that we've come to a point where no institution is above the law, where your decisions can still be questioned, your decisions can be questioned, your decisions can still be looked into, so to speak. And so I agree with my colleague that it is upon each and every individual to keep the institutions accountable. And I think I must commend Jubilee for the work that is done in terms of bringing as many politicians as it can, and this should go to
the
strategy worked, and it did a really good job. And I think this should go towards letting them know that they are carrying now the hopes and dreams of the majority of people who voted for their members in parliament, and they should not take advantage of that and ensure that they are delivering to the people those things that they promised them during the campaign period. But that being said, everyone again has a role to play in ensuring that the country moves forward, in ensuring that those dreams and visions we have are met. So that it's not only the media, it's not only the judiciary, it's even the common citizen who must play a role in making their people accountable.
Gabriel, are we looking at a situation where Jubilee will not have anybody to blame should they fail to deliver on their promises?
Exactly.
Because they have everything on their side.
Exactly.
They have the Senate, they have the National Assembly.
Exactly.
They have the Council of Governors.
And actually, that's a very good point that actually you've raised. Who will they blame should they not use the powers that they have? Because like you justly put it, and my good friends have actually alluded to the very same thing, Jubilee comes into both the Council of Governors, the Senate, and Parliament with a lot of powers. So they have to make a choice. Are we going to be the big bad giant, or are we going to be the good giant? And we all know, what the adage goes, to whoever much power is given,
much is expected.
So they have a responsibility that they must go out there and show the people that everything that we are going to do, every legislation that we are going to pass, must be seen to actually adversely and positively affect Wanjiko. Should they go out there and start exercising and putting legislations that are actually, geared to, bettering themselves, they are going to face a serious wrath from Wanjiku, because here you've been given all the powers. You have the tyranny, which has actually gone up than what you had last time.
But the president shouldn't say, what do you expect me to do?
How are you going to use this? And I think, like you've put it correctly, you will not have anybody to blame if you fail to use that power given by the numbers that you represent in Parliament and Senate. If you fail to use that effectively to ensure that Wanjiku is better than she was 5 years ago, I think you'll have actually wasted an entire political, parliament.
But the question is now, who is going to put them to check? Because power corrupts absolutely.
Let's not assume that they'll all follow robotic instructions. I think we've also, we need to give them, we need to give parliamentarians the ionas that they deserve. I mean, we've seen how some of these people who are making it to parliament, have been elected through. I mean, you've had the 23-year-old young university guy who was, elected. He never had one poster or whatever, and people are able to elect and give credence that you do not need to be a wealthy person.
But Gabriel, that's not a measure. We have seen saints elected to parliament and they change.
I agree, and that's why I'm saying let's not assume that what the president will say or what the majority leader will say will pass. Let us go with the narrative that they will be thinkers. They will put the interest of Wanjiku first. If that does happen, let me tell you, and that's why I began by saying, they must choose who they are going to be. Are they going to be that big bad giant, somebody who is just saying, I have the powers, I can do anything that I want? Or are you going to be that big good giant where people will say, I'll beat the fact that you have the powers. You are able to and be able to
there's something else that we must also not lose sight of. When Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity, one of the provisions is a recall clause, where within the Constitution it says that if you are unhappy with the performance of your MP during his time in office, you can always recall him. So when the legislation passed, the Leadership and Integrity Act, all these things were watered down, and the act became a lame duck, so to speak.
And now it's easier for a camel to go through a needle's eye than for you to recall
not exactly, because now Katiba Institute went to court, challenged that, and I want to believe that the law is made stronger, so that now it has more or less.
But we only have one institution charged with the responsibility of making laws, and that's Parliament. The Parliament whose members you want to recall.
Yes. Which is okay. That's what I'm saying, the accountability aspect. They're going to be held accountable. They should be held accountable by the judiciary. They should be held accountable by the media. But then now citizens have been given an extra oomph, so that they are not helpless anymore. If you feel your member of parliament is not performing as he or she should, then now you have that law, you have the constitution that you can use to...
Eric, execute your point. And
I look at it this way. We've seen, actually you and I, we've covered that parliament. We covered the parliament before, and we've seen how members of parliament behave in that house. Right now, there are so many carrots that are going to be dangled there. So that's why even you're talking about the 23-year girl.
More especially if we're going to implement that remuneration package.
Exactly. So there are so many carrots that are going to be dangled there. You are either on our side or you perish. So when that happens, whenever somebody is going to parliament, and the committees are there, and there are some so-called lucrative committees where everybody wants to sit there. So if you want to be in those committees, you must play with us. You must sing our song, and that is why the danger. We've seen even in the last parliament. There are so many laws that actually were overturned by the judiciary because of the tyranny of numbers. So that's why I'm saying that I can't say that there is hope that these guys are going to do what is right if they are not pushed. If they are, and I agree with her point that even the citizens right now must be vigilant right now. They must also find out what their leaders are. I know.
I'm wondering how vigilant a citizen will be. A citizen who was elected back to parliament, somebody who is shrouded with corruption.
Right. And again, this is where it counts for you to actually elect leaders who are above board, people who understand the economics, not only the economics of our time, but that which is ailing you as, you know, as somebody who voted in for them. It should not just be, you know somebody is corrupt and you put them back to Parliament. Having said that,
because it's one of our own,
of course,
or is in our party.
Totally. This, in fact, that's what Sandra was talking about. This narrative of Mutuetu, I think that must end. Where our democracy is going. And you saw how many independent candidates were able to, you know, come through. We've never seen it in Parliament. Having said that, there's also something.
We've never had an opportunity to understand independent.
The narrative also which we should not run away from is that even the opposition, they also have numbers which actually may be used to put the Jubilee in check. Let me put it that way, if used correctly. And also if used in accordance to what Parliament represents. We saw in the last Parliament, I don't think we've ever seen this in any other Parliament, where where Parliament became almost like a boxing, you know, ring. You're throwing water. It's not only water. You become, I mean, it's fist fights and what have you. People are saying somebody threw you know, exactly. I think there needs to be respect across the divide. Let us not say that the opposition does not have numbers to put Jubilee or the governing administration to check. If we are going to talk about a balance, if we are going to talk about Wanjiko, if that is going to be the main point, I agree, and I think, like I said before, I do not think members of Parliament or our legislatures are going to be put into a cocoon where robotic instructions must be followed. I do not think.
One of the, Sandra, even as you contribute, one of the first businesses of the House upon constitution or upon their first sitting is, of course, after the swearing in, is the election of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker for both houses. Do you think the personality behind these positions will help keep the government in check?
What I wanted to say before you ask the question is the citizens of today, or the voters of today, are not the same voters we had 10 or 15 years ago. They are more vocal. They are more, they have a better idea of what they want. And we saw this from the nomination and to the election, where those leaders that they thought were not performing were all wiped out. So I think it's also going to be something that the leaders now should also keep in mind, that if you're not performing or your voters are not comfortable with you, fine, we could give you 3 to 5 years, but my friend, if you're not performing, you're not going back. So if you have any dreams of a long-term service within the constituency, then you'd better perform and you'd better deliver to the citizens. So regarding your question on the Speaker, I look back at how the current speakers have been performing. Fine, there's a lot of politics in it. There's a lot of I don't want to call them shenanigans. Let's stick with the politics. A lot of politics around it. But then I want to believe that regardless of the numbers, regardless of the parties, we should have more faith moving forward, that the individuals that are going to be selected or elected for that matter are going to have the interest of the people at heart.
Eric, a closing one before we take another commercial break and move into other stories.
You look at it this way, and actually, I even mentioned this before, that actually this is also going, maybe the first time we are going to have a speaker elected during the first round. Because they don't have the numbers. They will not have to go for the second round and the third round.
They'll not spend it up to midnight.
And because they already have the numbers. And that means that the ruling party will have its person as the speaker. I don't know whether they still support J.B. Muturi or have another, because politics change. But if it's J.B. Muturi whom is still going to be supported by the Jubilee Party, he'll win in the first round. He doesn't need to go to the second round. And that means that whoever pays the price across the tune, you see. So if he's going to be put in there by Jubilee, of course it will come a time where he must also make sure that
this is the first chance for Jubilee to show the goodwill.
Exactly, yeah, and that means that he also has to protect the interest of Jubilee in the House, and even if that's in the National Assembly. Even if it comes to the Senate, whether they are going to re-elect Ekwe Turo or they have another candidate to be the Speaker of the Senate, again, that person, that man or woman must also respond to the needs of Jubilee, because they'll tell you that, hey, you know you are a person here. If you joke, we have the numbers, we can remove you there. So you must also do what you want. So that's why I'm saying that those are some of the dangers, that even the speaker who is going there is going to be the hostage of the ruling party, because they tell you, do you know we have the numbers? And if you do not toe the line, we are going to remove you there. Okay, chief, yes, I'll toe the line. You see, so that's what I'm talking about. But that is, so long as you have a house that can be manipulated, can be called upon by the ruling party to play to its tune, then there is a problem. You have a speaker who can be told that today we want this bill passed and you must ensure that this bill passes. If it doesn't, we'll remove you. And these are, like she's talking about recall. Like for the speaker, it's very easy.
Much easier. A vote of no confidence in
the speaker, and they remove you. And but there is hope, gentlemen. But there is hope. There is hope.
There is hope because we know the late Martin Shikuku was a one-man army.
Of course. But there is hope.
You know, James Orengo has been a one-man army before.
But this is what I'm looking at. What I'm quite sure of. And if you analyze what's going on, we're going to have another political realignment. And that will now help this country. If we have that political realignment in preparation for 2022 succession politics, then I think that's what's going to help the country. So let's hope that realignment will happen earlier.
Eric Odwell, Sandra Ochola, and Gabriel Muduma, we're looking at what's making headlines. We're taking another commercial break, and we'll be back with more of what is in the papers.